So to start things off, we're going to start off by cutting up our tomatoes. So I have 2 Roma tomatoes here that I'm just giving a rough chop to. No need to worry about it being perfect because we're going to put it in a food processor. So I've cut up my Roma tomatoes, and now I'm going to do the same thing with these bell peppers, just give them a rough chop as well. And I have 2 large ones here. So I'm just chopping that up very nicely, not worried about uniformity because it's going to be pulsed in the food processor. So after I've chopped up my bell pepper, I'm going to add in my habanero peppers or Scotch bonnet peppers, whichever one you can get your hands on. So I'm using 2 because I love spicy food, but if you don't have a high spice tolerance, you can do 1, or you can do half of 1, or you can omit the pepper altogether. Now I'm adding in just some roughly chopped onions. So I have 1 medium largish sized onion that I'm just really giving a rough chop to, again because we're gonna put this into the food processor. So this is what all of the chopped veggies look like before they're pulsed in the food processor. So I'm going to do this in 2 batches. So I'm putting about half of the bell pepper tomato onion mixture in here, and I've processed it on pulse. If you don't have a food processor, it will take longer, but you could cut it by hand, or you could slice the bell peppers and onions into strips. So now what I'm doing is straining some of the liquid that is naturally occurring in the bell peppers and onions, because we don't want all that extra liquid when we're cooking our stew. So I have a bowl underneath, and then I have my colander or strainer, and I'm putting the pepper mixture into the strainer while the liquid is being caught at the bottom by the bowl. As you can see, that is the liquid that's coming out. So I'm going to set that aside and let that continue to drain, and in the meantime I'm going to season my shrimp. So I have some large shrimp here that I've already cleaned and deveined and deshelled, and we're going to start by seasoning it with some black pepper. So this is about 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and then a teaspoon of Umami Seasoning, which is one of my favorites. And then we're going to go in with about 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. It's going to give our shrimp a nice color as well as a smoky flavor. Now I'm going in with a teaspoon of onion powder and then a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then a nice generous pinch of salt, but not too much. It should really equate to about a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm just going to mix all of the seasonings into the shrimp to make sure that each shrimp is coated with seasoning and everything is evenly incorporated. You could do this by hand, or you could use a rubber spatula like I am using here. Just make sure that's all mixed up. So now I'm going to take my pan and I'm going to make sure that it's heated, and I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of olive oil. Now once the pan is hot, I'm going to add in my shrimp, and I'm going to add it in batches. I want to only have enough shrimp in here so that each shrimp gets direct contact with the bottom of the pan. So I don't want to overcrowd it and have shrimp on top of each other. I want each piece of shrimp to have direct contact with the pan. So I'm going to let that shrimp chill out. I'm not going to stir it right away. I want the bottom to be nice and opaque. Once that's so, I'm just going to toss everything and mix it up. And now just let the other side get opaque as well. And once you no longer see any gray, your shrimp is done. Shrimp cooks very quickly, and texture is best when it is not overcooked. So once you see complete pink, you're good to go. So this is my second batch here. Same thing. You want one side to get nice and opaque. Then you flip it over, let the other side get nice and opaque, no gray. And we're gonna just set that aside. And now we're gonna work on our stew. So in that same pan with the drippings from the shrimp, giving us a nice element of flavor, I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of olive oil. Now I'm gonna take that pepper mixture that we had set aside. By now, most of that liquid is out, as you can see, and I'm gonna add that into the pan. And now we're gonna begin seasoning this. So we're gonna start off with a teaspoon of onion powder, teaspoon of garlic powder, nice. And then again with the umami seasoning, my favorite, about a teaspoon of that. Then I'm going in with a teaspoon of black pepper. And now I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of salt. And this here is 2 teaspoons of curry powder. And then here I have some Cameroonian pepper to add some more heat. If you don't have Cameroonian pepper, you can definitely use red chili flakes, or you can omit the additional pepper completely if you don't like spice. So now I am also going to add in some Italian seasoning or marjoram into the mix. Alright, and now we are going to add in some bone broth or chicken stock, or you can even add a little bit of water if you choose. But this is just going to help the bell pepper mixture not burn, because we did not add a lot of oil. Traditionally, if this was the classic Nigerian take, we would be using a lot of oil to keep that pepper mixture from burning. But to keep the fat content of this dish low and keep this a clean dish, we use literally a teaspoon of olive oil. So we're gonna let the tomatoes cook down and become, you know, that natural sweetness with the addition of the chicken broth, letting that be kind of the medium in which the stew cooks versus the oil. So now I'm just covering this with the lid. It's about on medium low, and you want to cook this until the liquid has reduced and the tomatoes and bell peppers and onions no longer have a raw taste, but more of a sweet and spicy taste. As you can see here, the pepper mixture has reduced, and now it's time to add the shrimp back in. Wonderful. So I'm adding the shrimp back in. I'm just gonna toss the shrimp into the stew mixture. Make sure that all the shrimp gets all that good loving from the stew. And now I'm gonna cover this again and let it chill out on low for about a minute or two. The shrimp is already cooked. Remember, we don't want it to overcook, but we do want the stew and the shrimp to, you know, become familiar with each other. Now I'm taking off the lid, just mixing it up a little bit, and then of course we gotta hit it with some fresh parsley or some sort of garnish to really get that shrimp to pop and really get that beautiful color to come through. And you can serve this with quinoa or brown rice, and then another green veg of your choice, be that broccoli or Brussels sprouts. You have the freedom to choose.